New Voodoo Live.
Elon Musk in the news after a period of hibernation, making changes to the Twitter ecosystem and firing a bunch of people. 80% layoffs have finally gotten the platform supposedly back to break even. And of course, Twitter not even known by the name Twitter anymore. At least I think the platform is still called Twitter, but the company is called X Corp. BJ reminds me of E Corp.
Shades of Mr. Robot vibes
Mr.
right
Robot,
there, man.
Yeah. So anyway, the premise of today, as PJ from our research department and Lee from our research department, PJ from our marketing department, join us. So Twitter made a bunch of changes. What, if anything, is an upgrade that's going to benefit the very people he relies on to make that $44 billion investment matter? Advertisers. We got some data. What do you think, Peach?
Yeah. So
what would you call the upgrade cycle?
I mean, supposedly the blue check thing was, it's designed to get people more reach and better engagement and so forth, which I can kind of see, but a couple fundamental problems I've got with it. The blue check used to mean verification. Like it used to indicate that this is not an imposter. It's the real person. It is a verified entity or brand or something like that. And that gave it some cachet. It gave it the opportunity to not feel like anybody, people weren't going to take them seriously and so forth. Yeah. But it stopped being that. And it was even reported yesterday that, hey, look, pretty much anybody, as long as you're willing to pay the money. There was a guy yesterday who literally has the N-word in his Twitter profile. Spelled out, not abbreviated or anything, spelled out. And he paid the $8 and he got verified. So their vetting process through all that. When something like that exists, I don't know how you make a case for that being an attractive thing for users, especially, but also advertisers for that matter.
Yeah, that goes beyond free speech
for Twitter because they get $8. I mean, That's all that is.
Hey, Lee, that actually reminds me of remember back in the early 2010s when all of a sudden you had the ability to boost posts in social media, and all that really meant was throttling the organic reach and creating a new revenue stream.
And that's look, it's their business to operate. It's just as they make these changes, everybody outside has to adapt to that and decide what's a good value proposition for them. And I would posit, Mike, that work is already kind of that choice has already been made as it applies to Twitter.
So I would
go ahead.
Hang on. I would just add a little bit to that. I mean, when you've got somebody like Elon who clearly sees value in trolling everybody as much as he does in running the business, so much of the PR problem is his so if there are features, if there are things that he's doing that are really building that value, he is so obsessed with the pettiness and the things that are making the negative news and letting all these people on that are clearly amplifying hate and all the negative side of this. He clearly doesn't care about the PR enough, and yet then complains that we're not seeing the value in it. It just feels like it rests solely on his shoulders.
And let's face it, Lee, for advertisers, really comes down to two things. What platform for the money spent will give me the greatest reach in the target demographic I'm after and the fastest frequency in order to build to action? And I certainly didn't hear Elon mention anything about cutting the cost per thousand as an inducement for advertisers. We've discussed very little that the platform has done really upgrades the advertising experience, but we've got the report card, because we do these studies twice a year, pretty big studies that get into the usage. So tell us a little bit about the data we're about to see.
Okay, so from earlier this year, over 5,000 respondents all across the nation, 14 to 54, capped at the upper end with 54 because that's what advertisers typically care about, up to age 54. And so you start with just daily usage. Are people touching these platforms at all? And in early 2023, that shows Twitter with a daily reach among these respondents of 28%.
Yeah, not even, TikTok and Snapchat have both surpassed them, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's bigger than Pinterest, but it's certainly not a big number. And I think back to these very same data, just our study 2 summers ago. 2021 would have had that number at 40%. That's a massive, massive decline in a relatively short number of years. And the changes that have been forced on the platform since Musk took over certainly have not been beneficial.
PJ, I thought you made an interesting observation before we started to boost our broadcast today about where Twitter ranks now in terms of its, if you're going to prioritize ad spend, Twitter's not competitive anywhere here.
Yeah, we're in that kind of weird phase now, sort of at the beginning of this year, where it's like, are we going into a recession? Are we already in one? Have we gotten out of one? Like nobody knows where exactly we're at. And so because of that uncertainty, we see a lot of marketing budgets that are not necessarily shrinking to the point where they're non-existent, but they're very careful. All of our clients are really careful about every dollar that they're spending. And so are you going to pick the 7th one on the list? If you're only going to be in a few platforms, or you only have a certain amount of budget. I mean, there are cases to be made for TikTok, for example, if it's the right platform, and we've watched that surge over the last couple of years. Its targeting is certainly not very robust yet. Certainly the caveat there, because it'll definitely get there, and we'll be poised to strike with a lot of our clients when it makes the most sense from a targeting perspective. But again, back to efficiency. If the targeting's not great, then the efficient use of dollars becomes in question at that point, and Twitter suffers from all of that.
So Lee, I guess at worst, it's 1 out of every 5 in a particular demo using this platform, and we're not talking about a high bar here. This is once a day or more.
When we get into checking in,
right? It's checking in, and as an advertiser, we need to build frequency. The quantity of messaging is just as important. And so this is where the sticky question comes in.
Yeah, and that's a place where Twitter really comes apart. Here's 9% who meet this threshold that we've imposed of saying they touch it at least 4 times a day. Many touch it far more than that. If you're looking at Google and YouTube and Facebook, TikTok. But Twitter at 9%, it has its zenith among men and among millennials. So you would intuit that that's millennial men largely. And sure, but that's still 12%, about 1 in 8 at that kind of heavier usage level where they're checking back in. And that's an opportunity for advertisers to increase frequency and get the multiple impressions to start to crack through people's brains so that they'll take action on that impression.
Yeah, and PJ, I guess the third sort of leg in the stool here is we're looking at daily reach for maybe total audience penetration and the level of stickiness for how quickly we can build frequency. But then there's message effectiveness. And actually, Lee, why don't you briefly explain our methodology for message effectiveness? And then PJ, obviously, you're the one making the decisions in the chair about how to create campaigns that are going to have the biggest bang for the buck for their clients. Love to hear your opinion about what you see here at the bottom of the stack. So Lee, let's start with you here. Ad stickiness, explain what we're measuring.
Sure. How often do you pay attention to things advertised through these different channels? And we've described them at greater length for the respondent, but shorthanded here, for example, at broadcast / cable TV or billboard / outdoor. But the bottom line is on a 6-point scale where the one end is I never pay attention and 6 is all the time, showing numbers totaling up 5 plus 6. Yeah. Twitter's at the bottom of this stack rank, and it has some, penetration among, again, millennial men who this table clearly shows are the people who are most receptive, who are the most periscope up, if you will, noticing ads and things that are around them. But okay, Twitter delivers some of that, but so does every other channel here, including radio, which we've seen up in this current study as people are back out into their former daily lives as we go into this endemic phase of the pandemic.
And Lee, I think you hit on it right. We get bombarded by advertising everywhere. I mean, there are some websites I go to, and I feel like I'm going to get cancer just from their ad map. And so it is a struggle to cut through sometimes. I mean, we have and so knowing the platforms that people actually not just notice, because I love the fact that a couple years ago we used to ask, where do you notice ads? And we've changed that to where do you pay attention, because that's a really important distinction. Yeah. It's a meaningful interactions with a set of eyeballs on the other end of your marketing is incredibly valuable. And when you see you're talking about use case for Twitter, this does not make a very good one because of all of the other variable options that exist above that. And, again, if you're trying to cut costs, you're trying to focus on making your dollars count, it's really important to be in the places that your audience is going to be.
Boy, and when you think that radio is an intrusive mechanism, right? It's a linear experience. You have to sit through the commercial if you're going to be, a consumer of the brand. Whereas Twitter, you can ignore the ads, but we don't even do as well as radio.
Right. If you scroll past it, then it's no harm, no foul, I guess. But if it's, with radio, you're definitely going to sit through that. And so when you rank underneath that, that's just not a good sign for Twitter.
So Lee, 2 big studies a year that we do that really inform most of the strategies that PJ recommends to his clients. But you do these studies for individual verticals and individual markets as well.
Absolutely. We do it regularly. I'd like to think that we do it well. And not only being able to deliver it on budget, but if we can go into the field with a study that is specific enough, if it's a relatively short interview and we know exactly what we want to get on the other side, we can turn them around. I can recall one client case where they needed answers for a decision that they needed to make on a Monday. They came to us with, oh my God, what are we going to do on Thursday? And we got it done.
And PJ, this is such a moving target that I got to imagine you're very dependent upon these in-house studies to help formulate your plans.
Without a doubt, and we don't hide from that either. I mean, I will preface it by saying that the marketing folks and the marketing team are brilliant and incredibly hardworking, and we do a great job for our clients. But we look a lot smarter than we are because of the research that Lee does. It is great to not just be guessing, trying to follow trends, reading about some shiny object in marketing news and deciding, this is the thing that we're going to start recommending for our clients. No, this is real actionable data that we are going and at not only asking for, but seeking out. If there are more questions that aren't in a particular study, we can go out and ask those and get those questions answered so that we make the most informed decisions. And again, the through line is always efficiency of marketing dollars. And when we've got that kind of efficiency and can spend the marketing dollars the right way, that's what allows us to achieve success for our clients really well.
Lee, these studies are massive. You guys are either one of you available anytime to go through them with people who are interested in our managed services or to do a study on their own as well. You're easy to reach, right? Lee,
I'm easy, Leigh at newvoodoo.com.
And you're even easier.
Yeah, PJ, 2 letters, like pajamas.
And I'm Mike O'Connor. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again for another edition of New Voodoo Live.
New Voodoo builds digital products and conducts research and marketing campaigns for clients.
It's easy to get in touch. Drop us a line at tellmemore@newvoodoo.com.